Welcome to our Gemara shiur. We're giving here shiur Gemara straight and simple. Not Amud Yomi, not Daf Yomi, not a program, regular Gemara, not too much Be'iyun, not too much Be'kiyas. Hope you enjoy this shiur. Even if you missed the previous shiurim, you can jump right back into the shiur now. And the shiur is for the Ilun Neshama of my father, the Menachem ben Akiva, and for the quick release of all the hostages, and Bezos Hashem, the fires. We have big fires now in Eretz Yisrael. And may the Kadosh Baruch Hu help us to that the fire should, Be'ezus Hashem, stop very, very soon. And the only next piece of news will be Mashiach coming right away. Mashiach should be here already. It's time. Now, we are learning Masechet Shabbos Daf Kuf Mem Aleph Amud Beis, and the topic is how to deal with your shoes on Shabbos. This is not halacha shiur, but this is we're going to see from the Gemara's perspective all kinds of halachas that have to do with keeping your shoes nice and clean, and what you are allowed or not allowed to do with your shoes on Shabbos. We're kind of here Kuf Mem Aleph Amud Beis in the second line. Hadetani Rabbi Chia. Ein megarerin lo min al chodosh velo min al yoshon. So, what the Gemara says over here, a brisa quoting Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia was a master of all brises, and the Gemara is telling us on behalf of Rabbi Chia that if one has mud on his shoes, that can happen. That does happen, yes, in the winter especially. Let's say there's mud on the shoe, then you're not allowed to scrape off the dry mud. The wet mud, the moist mud may be easier. That's an issue in halacha. But conceptually, don't scrape off the mud from your shoes, and you tend to do it hard because you want to get each and every piece, out of the shoe, away from the shoe. So don't do that on Shabbos. And the question is why? Okay, here we have another participant. So the question is, why shouldn't you do it? And the reason is, thank you. The reason is because there is, yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry for that glitch, and welcome to Reb Tzvi. So basically, there are two malachos that are not always not clearly defined by many people. The two halachas that have to do with leather in the Mishkan, but they really have to do with other materials as well. One of malachas is called memachek, memem ches kuf, memachek. The other one is me'abed. Yeah. So what's memachek and what's me'abed? People get confused, and somebody thought yesterday memachek is to erase. That's not true. That's moichek. So if you only listen to this part of the shiur, you already gain a lot. Memachek means when you smoothen something, such as leather that has hair and all kinds of gook on the leather, on the skin, on the hide. You're trying to make it into proper leather. So you smoothen it by removing the hair, making it all smooth, nice, no bumps. That is memachik. Memachik does not only apply to skin or leather, it applies also to, for example, stones. Before Shatoises and Daf Ayin Hey Amud Beis, we learned it in Yeshiva recently. If you have a surface of flat stone, like a brick, you want to smoothen it from all the bumps and nooks and crannies. You want to just make it smooth and nice and straight. That is called also memachik. And that is one concern here that we have, and that is the concern of taking, let's say, a knife. If you take a sharp knife and you scrape off all the mud from your shoe, and that mud, goes away, but it's also a psik resha that the actual leather gets, you're basically not shining it to give it color, but you are rubbing it back and forth, and that creates that extra smoothness, even if your shoe is nice and fancy, and that's a chiddush chodesh or yoshon. Whether it's new and you just bought the nicest shoe in town, and it's nice and good and just supple enough, but still there is a chashash of, it's either psikresha, some say it's dover and miskaven, and we'll follow Rebuda over here. But whatever the case is, you are giving that extra rub, that extra scraping, and that makes it even straighter and nicer. Now it's smoother. That's one of melacha called memachik. The other of melacha is called me'abed. Me'abed is also something that's done to leather. Le'abed is to tan the leather or to preserve it. In other words, we all know that skin, dead animal skin, hide is going to rot very quickly. And ibud is something that's there to preserve it and make it better. The reason why one's not allowed to salt food on Shabbos under certain conditions or to pickle the tomatoes or cucumbers, can't pickle them and put them in vinegar, that's me'abed. Could be the Rabbanon, but it's me'abed because you're preserving it, right? With salt, with preservatives, preserving the leather or other things on Shabbos is an Isser. The rice of the Rabbanon depends on the level. And that's the second Isser over here, which has nothing to do with the first one. What's the second Isser in the Brisa? V'lo yosu chesag lo shemen v'hu b'toich hamin al oy b'toich sandal. Which means, let's say a person wants to smear losuch, to smear, to like massage his feet with oil. He's smearing them with oil, like cream oil. That is of itself is allowed on Shabbos. Why? Because if you want to just apply oil, runny oil, I'm not talking about the hard one, which is another problem, but runny oil, liquidy oil on your face, on your hands, on your feet is fine. Meforsha Mishnah in Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. And even if the person does it for medical reasons, it's okay. Why? Because it's accepted to rub your hands with oil just for the fun of it. Cosmetics, it's nice, smells nice, feels nice. Like women like to put creams. So, and the oil, if it's runny, no problem. But here there is another issue. If you smear your foot or feet, one or two, it doesn't matter, with oil, and then the foot itself is inside the shoe or inside the sandal, then the immediate effect is the oil is touching the sandal or the shoe. We assume the person is not wearing socks, and now the shoe from the inside or the sandal are affected by the oil. And apparently, the oil creates some kind of extra preservation. It improves the quality of the leather, the oil, and therefore some kind of preservative or anything, something that improves the quality, the shelf life of the shoe, the way I understand it. And therefore, that could be an issue, either the Raisa or the Rabbanon. There's an issue here of me'abed. Le'abed. Le'abed in Hebrew is to process, to make it, better and processed. So if your shoe is inside, if your foot is inside the shoe, I'd like to think, if your foot is already inside the shoe and you like slip in the the oil into the area between your foot and the shoe, even though you're rubbing your own foot, but it's directly affecting right away the shoe, that could be an issue of me'abed, and that's not allowed, at least not l'chatchila. Aval, saches raglo shemen, umeniach betoich minal or betoich sandal. You may though smear your foot or both feet with oil, done, and then place them in the shoe, then wear your shoe or your sandal. That's already more indirect. It's not so effective for the shoe because it's already getting maybe the idea is it gets absorbed in your body, in your foot, and then it's not as bad, not as effective, not as direct, and that is okay. And continues the Brisa, v'sach kol gufei shemen. Wow, one is allowed to smear the entire body with oil. He's making like a whole, some people do it to, the Dead Sea, they put mud all over the body. I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah. And he smears his entire body with oil. Misagel al gav katavlia. Misagel, says Rashi, misgalgel. He's allowed to roll over a katavlia. Katavlia is a surface made out of leather. So even though the leather, may be affected by the oil, in other words, there is no problem of having oil that's getting absorbed in your body or your shoe, even though right away you come in contact with leather, and we're not concerned that that leather is being me'abed or misabed. It doesn't get that preservative effect. Rav Chizda. However, Rav Chizda the Amoira is coming to qualify what the Brisa told us. Rav Chizda lo ishanu ela letzachtzechoi. It's only allowed if your idea, let's say you put the oil on you smear the oil on your foot, not for medicinal reasons. You do it knowing you're trying to be smart, to outsmart the system, and you put oil in your foot in order to like smoothen, to preserve the oil. And the idea is not to preserve it, if your idea is just to letzachtzech, just to make it a little bit smoother, making it nice and smooth, that is okay. Aval abdoi also. If you're doing la'abdo, you're doing to preserve the leather, the shoe, then it's not allowed. Pshita. Of course. Why did Rav Chizda have to tell me that? If your purpose is really to be me'abed the skin, the leather, the shoe, however you define la'abed, you don't have to tell me. Question, Ravuna as an Amoira doesn't have to tell me I'm not allowed to do ibud. It's a before Avos Melacha in the 39 Malachos. So why is Ravuna telling Rav Chizda, excuse me, why is he telling me that ibud, if my purpose is ibud on purpose, I'm putting the oil on my shoe, on my foot, excuse me, in order to be me'abed the shoe. Of course it's also. Vetu, and another question on Rav Chizda, would anybody allowed to be metzachzeach? In other words, are you sure that it's okay to just make it nice and smooth without really trying to preserve it? It's very likely that Chachamim should answer it. Says Rashi, why? Because ikal migzar atul abdoi. It's a very slippery slope over here, very slippery. Excuse the pun. Yeah, because if your purpose is letzachzeach, tzachzuach is just one level below ibud. See, allow the person to put in the oil in order to just make it a little bit nicer, shinier, softer, whatever, tzachzuach, and you allow him to do that, and you're not concerned he'll come to do real ibud. That's a very close call. That's dangerous. You're getting near the danger zone, and you allow that. Usually, chachamim are much more machmir with their gezeros. Ella, therefore, Yitmar Hachi Itmar. If you want to learn of Chizda properly, Hachi Itmar. That's the way you should learn of Chizda's words. This is a real Rav Chizda now talking. Amar Rav Chizda, says Rav Chizda, Leishanu ela shiur letzachtzechoi. Oh, really, your purpose when you put the oil on your foot, when you smear oil on your foot, that is only okay if you're trying to do it for fun, even for medical reasons, it's okay. Why is it okay, by the way, for medical reasons? Because people also do it for non-medical reasons. That's always the rule. You know that already. If the shiur, which means your purpose has to be purpose, I want to do it only for my own health, my own, put it some cream on my foot to, refresh myself. That's okay. But the shiur also, the amount of oil you put should not be too much. You should only put a little bit of oil on your foot that can only, even if your intention would have been for the shoe, all that amount can do is metzachzeach. Remember, there are two levels. Letzachzeach is just, to make it nicer and a bit smoother. And le'abed is more, is stronger, better, and more osur. So if the amount, even if your purpose has nothing to do with the shoe, don't have the shoe in mind. Don't try to improve your shoe because it's either ibud deoraisa or tzictzuch derabanon. But even if you do it for your own cosmetic reasons, for medicinal reasons, still you should only do it for the shiur. The amount you should apply should be a small amount that can only be mitzachzeach. Aval shiur labde osu. Do not apply so much oil that can be me'abed, because even if it's not your purpose, it is psik resha, you'll be misabed, as we said before, or maybe this is according to Rabbi Yehuda, which we don't follow, but Allah Mishnah Berurah says you should not do that. Yeah, don't put a lot of oil on your shoe on your foot when you enter when your foot comes into the shoe, because then the shoe will be, sometimes the modern shoes we have may be different, but think of those sandals, like sandals people wear, in the Middle East, more rough from the inside. Yeah, as a child, I used to wear them, not today. So when you have those sandals, the inside are still a little bit rough, and then you put the oil. So first of all, your kavanah should never be to smoothen them. Not only your kavanah, the amount you apply on your foot should also be small, that can never potentially bichlal create ibud. We have to stay that much, that far apart from Isra Doraisa Chas v'Shalom of ibud of the skin. Tanu Rabbanon. Now more about shoes, a different halacha to do with shoes on Shabbos. Lo yetze cotton b'minal godol, which means here cotton does not mean a minor below bar mitzvah. A cotton over here means a person who's small size, petite, a petite person, a person who's of smaller size. He should not, he has small feet because he's small, so the feet are also small. Lo yetze cotton b'minal godol. When a cotton, a person of small feet, yeah, should not wear, when he walks down the street, when he goes out in the street on Shabbos, should not wear shoes that are too big, yeah, that are too big for him, that are not his size, that are oversized shoes. Yeah, why not? Because it may fall. So if it falls on Shabbos, I'm talking here in a place where there is no Eruv. If there's no Eruv, what's going to be? It's going to fall. It's going to fall off his feet. And if it's going to fall off his feet, it's going to come and bring it. It's going to come pick it off the sidewalk or wherever and start walking Daladamis until he gets ready, until he finds a place to put on his shoe. He may be carrying Daladamis Chas v'Sholom, and that's Daladamis Mushus Ha'abim. That's also that's Itzah. Daladamis Mushus Ha'abim is not allowed. So to avoid the whole issue, don't go with oversized shoes on Shabbos. Don't try your luck. I mean, one would ask, why would I do such a thing on Shabbos? Maybe he has no other shoes. Misken is a poor guy, or there is no other shoes, but he's trying his luck. He's saying, I'll manage. No, you won't manage. We're concerned you won't manage, and you will fly off your feet. And that will be, you'll pick them up to whatever, for whichever reason, and then you'll be walking with Dalad Amis with the shoe in your hand, and that's a problem. Aval, however, yoitzu bechaluk godol. When it comes to an oversized shirt, I'm not saying a jacket on purpose. Let's say you have an oversized shirt that you are allowed to wear on Shabbos. Why? First of all, mitzad the fact it's going to fall, it's not going to fall. If you have an oversized shirt and it's buttoned down, or oversized T-shirt, then what? It may look funny and crazy, but it's not going to fall, right? It's not like, a shoe that, or like a sandal, like a flip flop that just flies away. It's a chaluk. It's something that you'll might wear and you button down. And maybe the person there here, there's a second concern, which we learned in Bameh Isha. Maybe people will laugh at him. Maybe misken, people will mock him for wearing oversized garment, and then he may come to remove it. Sometimes, here he won't come to remove it because of people mocking him, as bad as he feels, because he doesn't want to be shirtless in the middle of a Rosh Rabbi. Normal human beings don't walk around like that. So therefore, he will still wear the big chaluk by hook or by crook. Yeah, it's even a rhyme. So therefore, with chaluk, it doesn't apply. A person may wear an oversized shirt. What about a jacket? Oh, so jacket, people would remove the jackets in the street. Well, some of us would. So that's a big nafkamina between two pshatim in Rashi. If it's not falling off, a jacket won't fall off unless it's very, very oversized. Yeah. And if it's not people laughing, maybe there is a problem because if people would mock him and would remove the jacket and walk with the jacket and not make fun of himself. So I don't know. That could be enough kamina, but these are the two reasons of Rashi. Now let's talk about the women with shoes. A woman should not walk around with a min al merupat. Min al merupat means torn. A woman shouldn't go out into the street wearing shoes that are worn and torn, not even crazy torn, even torn that still cover most of her feet, yeah, but still they don't look nice. They really are significantly torn and in bad shape. Don't wear that to the street. Why? You're daring to wear it now in the street, and if you're a woman, you definitely care about your looks. Other ladies will make comments. They're gonna look. They're gonna laugh. They're gonna giggle, and sure enough, she will remove the shoe. It's probably better for her to walk barefoot, especially in societies where walking barefoot was accepted, or maybe she's wearing socks, or she has some other way. She would remove her shoes and not look, it's better to look like a bit funny than looking like a pauper. And therefore there's a chashash, a woman should lechatchila not wear that funny, torn, worn shoe because people may laugh and she'll remove it and walk with the daladamas bushas rabim in her hand. That's a big problem. That's an isol doraisa. Lo tachlo boy. Once we're talking about that kind of shoe, we're also mentioning the other halacha to do with shoes and the women, which is chalitza. A woman should not be choletz, which means if a man is a yavam, yeah, his brother who was her husband died with no children. We know it's yavama. She should not do chalitza with min al merupat. We're talking here, as I said before, I'm quoting Tosfos. We're talking here about the kind of shoe which is worn and torn, but not completely. It still covers most of the foot. So halachically, it's considered to be a halachically good shoe for chalitza. You should know one of the big simonim in Shulchan Aruch is how should the chalitza shoe that the woman removes from her brother-in-law's foot. That shoe has many, many conditions. Nowadays in Beis Din, they have a special shoe for chalitza. You don't just bring your own shoe from home. So one of the conditions is that the shoe should not be torn. If the shoe is torn but still covers most of the foot, lechatchila don't be choletz. V'im cholza chalitza kshera. If she did b'di'eved chalitza with such a shoe which is torn 40% but not mostly torn, then it's kosher. Why? Because midoraisa, a shoe that doesn't cover most of the foot is not a shoe. So then even b'di'eved it won't work. Shulchan Aruch says that. I checked it today. The Gemara, the shoe we're talking about here is a shoe that is just about okay. It does cover 40% of your foot, so it's b'di'evet okay. B'di'evet yes, but chatchila don't be choletz with such a shoe, lest you come to be choletz with a real bad shoe, with the one which is mostly torn, and that's for sure bad. The en yotzin b'min chodesh back to Shabbos. Opa, back from Yavamis to Shabbos. Then yotzin b'min al chodesh. On Shabbos, don't wear your new shoes for the first time. Whoa. And what are we talking about and why? Why is it? You bought yourself new shoes, and we're talking about shoes that you did not try before in the shoe store, or maybe you tried them for very little bit. It does happen a lot to children more than adults, but it still does happen. People come with the new shoes that they wore and they wear it for the first time, and they say it's impossible. I can't wear such a shoe. So why shouldn't you wear it on Shabbos if it's your first time? If this is your inauguration of the shoe, and why not? And what? Be'ez min al omru. What kind of shoe are we talking about? You should not wear for the first time. Be'minal shel isha. In the minal of a woman. Why? What's the difference between women and men? Many differences. One difference is women, with all due respect to today's stories, Lamaisa, women care about their looks more than men, and that's the way it should be. And minal shel isha, a woman cares about the way she looks. And therefore, if she finds out the shoe is too small, it's too big, the shoe is not exactly the size that she thought it would be, it doesn't really fit her, too big, too small, and she'll remove it because she feels very funny walking with a shoe that's not exactly her size. That's not her style, not her size. And she'll remove it. By a man, there's much less of a chashash like that. If a man, he may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but he would still walk around with it. A woman feels very self-conscious about her looks, and therefore, minal shalisha, if she did not wear it before, she didn't try it on properly, then she should not have her debut appearance on Shabbos with that minal, because she may find it too small or too big, and not pleasing for her classy, stylish style. Tani Bakapara, Lo Shonu Ela Shelo Yotzu Basho Achas Mevod Yom. What I told you already. Says Bakapara, that's only true if she never wore it before. Aval Yotzu Be'erev Shabbos Muto. If she once wore it already, Merev Shabbos, she went out with it once and she really tried it on properly. She already had it once before. Then it's okay, because even if it's not the right size, she may say, "Okay, I'm aware of what's going on here. I'm not going to be surprised with that first time wearing on Shabbos, and I'm not going to remove it because I know that shoe is already the shoe, which is hopefully my size, or I don't mind if it's a bit small, a bit big, and that's why if you wore it there of Shabbos, then it's allowed. Yeah, nowadays I think it applies a lot because people buy a lot of clothes online. They don't even try it on, or shoes. People buy shoes online, which is interesting, and then the thing arrives at home to their surprise, the shock and surprise, it's not the right size. Tani Chada. Tani Chada. Now we're going to talk from here till the end of the Perek. Are we excited for finishing the Perek? Tomorrow, Be'ezras Hashem, a new Perek. Tani Chada. There seems to be a contradiction or a machloikis between two brises regarding an item called imus or imum, which means it's the form that you make the shoe on. Yeah, I think even today they use it in some countries. Basically, in order to create a shoe, I'm not talking here when you mass production of shoes, but the way shoes are were slash are classically produced, sorry, manufactured. You have I actually saw this once in a book. They have like a dummy, yeah, like a little, so to speak, statue figure in the shape of a foot, and on that they create the shoe. In other words, the classical cobbler shoemaker, he would take the leather and make the shoe while it is, yeah, being worn on the imum, on that form, on that shape, on that whatever wooden or plastic piece that looks like a foot. On that he would sew and create and stitch and design the shoe. And yeah, the custom made shoes. And now at the end of the production line, what happens? The shoe is already ready, but it's still sitting kind of like hugging the imum, that form, that foot shaped form, yeah, is there. So now, are you allowed to remove it on Shabbos? Yes or no? Tani Chada. One brisa tells us, Shemtin minal malgabe imum. One brisa told us you are allowed to remove lishmot. You're allowed to remove the shoe from the imum, from that form, and take it and wear it for Shabbos. Ah, it's the first time. You're a man. You're a man. You can wear it first time. You don't care so much. V'tanya idach and shoimtin. The other brisa says, no, you're not supposed to remove the shoe from the imum. If it's the first time, it was never off the imum. You're taking it off the imum, off the where it was manufactured, produced the first time, that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Now, you should know there are two separate sugyas here that are combined. The first sugya is what is the status of the actual shoe? The shoe itself. Is the shoe considered to be a kli or not? Yeah, let's examine. On one hand, you can say, of course, the shoe is ready. If the shoe is ready, I just have to like scrape it off and remove it from the imum, and then I'm okay, I'm good to go. Use the pun. But on the other hand, you can say no, because since it's still being in the same place where it was raw leather and straps and stitches, and now before it's off the imum, it's still considered to be something raw. Not raw, I mean something that is not that is not yet ready as a kli. It will be a kli once it's off the imum, but as long as it's still on the imum itself, because that's the place that it's been produced while it was raw material, then it's still not considered to be a kli. It's not continuing from that stage onwards. And that apparently is a machlokes tanoim, lo kasha and chinami. That's a machlokes. Do we view that shoe that is ready but not ready? Yeah, that shoe, yeah, is ready but not ready. In other words, physically you have a shoe. On the other hand, the shoe is still the same leather that's on the imum. So apparently it's a machlokes tanoim, lo kasha, or blazer, or rabbanon. Machlokes rabbanon regarding tuma v'tara, and we saw in many places that tuma v'tara and muktzeh they go hand in hand. Why? Let's see the Tanan. Minal shel gabe imum, a minal that is still on the imum, it's still there on the production line, on the production place. Rabbi Lezer mitahel. Rabbi Lezer says such a shoe is not susceptible to receive tum'ah. Why? Because raw material, things that are not, or not even raw material, even, I would say a better word, unfinished product. Of course, it's not raw material. It's not a finished product until you remove it and scrape it off the where you produce it and start using it, putting it in your cupboard, put it down as an item. As long as it's not past the production, the assembly line, so to speak, it's tahar. It does not accept tuma. Why doesn't accept tuma? Because it's not a kli. It's an unfinished kli. Aha! If it's an unfinished kli for tuma, it's also unfinished kli regarding muktzeh. And that is the opinion of Rabbi Lezer. Very good. It's muktzah still. It's not yet considered as a completely finished, ready kli. The chachamim mitamim. Chachamim say tame. What does it mean, chachamim mitamim? Chachamim tell us no, it's tame, meaning that chachamim mitamim, meaning that according to chachamim, this item, this shoe is susceptible to receive tuma. It can be mekabel tuma because it's a kli. The fact that geographically it still is sitting, lying on the imum, so what? Be'etzem, anybody can wear it once it's off the imum. So it's a kli regarding tuma, and so to a kli regarding Shabbos, it's not muktzeh. Correct the Gemara. Now we come to a second issue. Up until now, we discussed the shoe, and that's legit. The shoe, machlokes tanoim, whether a shoe that's on the imum is it considered to be a kli or an unfinished kli, because you didn't really finish producing it. Machlokes tanoim, yeah, very nice. However, there's another issue here, and that is, what about the imum itself? The imum clearly is a kli shemalachto leisu. The imum itself is where everything is happening. The imum is there. What's kli shemalachto leisu? It's a kli. It's an item that's being produced by human beings. I'm talking about the imum itself now. Yeah, that dummy, that foot-shaped dummy that you put everything on and you produce it on, that thing, what about it? It's kli shemalachto leisu. It's a kli which is meant for prohibited melachas. You stitch, you sew, you paint, you create the shoe. That item itself, the Gemara at this point understands that in order to take off the shoe that's tightly hugging it, I have to actually move the imum itself. The imum inadvertently is going to move. Are you allowed to move muktzeh on Shabbos? Well, depends. And the Gemara is now asking the following question. According to Rava, you are allowed to move muktzeh in such context. Why? Doma, what did Rava say? Dovash malachta leisu, yeah, an item which is a kli, which is meant for prohibited malacha, like such as an imum, a pen, pencil, phone, all these things that are kalim, they're not stones and sticks, they're kalim, but they're meant for isur. So dovash malachta leisu, ben letzach gufoy, ben letzach mekomoy muta. Then Shapir. Rava says, and halacha is like Rava, that one is allowed to take a kli shemalachta leisu and move it and either to use it for permissible malacha. You can take your pen, let's say, and use it to, I don't know, scratch your head, if that's allowed on Shabbos, yeah, or to, I don't know, stir your coffee, if that's okay with you, or ben l'tzorch mekoimoy. Oh, what's tzorch mekoimoy? That's what we have to focus. You're allowed to take the phone, and the phone is disturbing you because it's on the table. Remove it in order to make space on the table for your Shabbos plate. Now, this case is very, very funny here, interesting. The imum, what you need is the space of the imum, meaning the imum, it's very, very convoluted. When the imum, shaped like a foot, is inside the shoe, and I want the shoe, so the imum is taking the space that I want. Hey, imum, get out of here. I want the space, the inner space of the shoe, because I want to wear it for shul. Everyone should see my new shoes. And therefore, the imum is tzorach mekomo. I'm removing the shoe and also shaking the imum because I need the space the imum is taking. So good. So therefore, according to Rava Givaldig, I can shake off the shoe from the imum because I need the space. And according to Rava, that's legit. That's allowed. Ela labai domo letzorch gufei muto, letzorch mekomei osu, letzorch mekomei osu, mai kalameimal. According to Abaye, bad news. We're asking a question of Abaye. How do I explain, yeah, what's going on over here? Because he believes Abaye, as we explained extensively in Kol HaKelim, around Daf Kufkaf Beis, Kufkaf, Kufkaf Gimel. In Kufkaf Gimel, we explained that sugya, according to Abaye, kli shemalachta leisu, such as imum or pen, pencil, computer, whatever, you're allowed to move in order to use it for permissible use, but you're not allowed to move it for the mekoimo, for its place. How do you explain it? According to you, Abaye, what's going on? Are you telling me that I'm allowed to shake off the shoe and mamish move it and hold the imum and move the imum? How can I move the imum? And what's my purpose? That's not allowed according to Abaye. So how does it work? And says the Gemara, "Oche b'mayaskinan." You know what we're talking about? Berofui. We're talking about a kind of min'al shoe that's not tightly hugging the imum as we thought, but it's loose. It's like hanging a little bit loosely. So if I'm very gentle and nice and kind and slow, I can move the shoe slowly without moving the imum. Bingo. According to Abai, that's okay. The shoe itself, according to Chachamim, is okay. They believe that it's a kli. What about the imum? I'm not moving it. I'm not moving it. I'm taking the shoe very slowly, and it's already loose before Shabbos, and therefore I can remove it without touching and without moving the imum. And there is a proof. Oh, Abaye not only defended his opinion, he's even going to prove his opinion right. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, im hoya rofui mutar. Oh, Rabbi Yehuda says if the shoe was rofui, was loose, then it's okay. Now the Gemara is going to turn the tables. Abai has a proof like him. Now Rava is under attack. Time of the Rofui, hello Rofui loy. Wait a second. Are you telling me, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, that if it's not Rofui, if it's really tight and it's really touching the thing, the imam all over, and you want to remove it strong and move the imam, that's not allowed. And it's not allowed. Ooh, as I said, the tables are turning now. The cards are changing. Also, Abaye is not right. Abaye said that tzorich mitkoima is not allowed. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says here. Imum is you moving the shoe for the makoim of the imum, of the inner shoe. You see that that's not allowed. If that's not allowed, that's very good according to Abaye. He has a Tana supporting him. Oh, Tana Rabbi Yehuda. אלא לרוב הדומר בין לצורך גופה בין לצורך מקוי ממותו, מה עיר רפוי? According to your Rava, you say that even I'm allowed to move and shake around muktzah for the purpose of the space that it's taking, that it's occupying. If so, then why rafui? Afilo lo rafui nami, right? In other words, why did Rabbi Yehuda require it should be loose? Even if it's not loose, it should be okay, because I am allowed to remove it and move the imam as much as I want, because I need the space. And it's okay to remove malachto isu for the space, according to Rava. And says the Gemara, very, very nicely, now we're closing, tying all the loose ends. No, remember the first part of the sugya? The status of the shoe. The shoe itself, we said, is a question whether it's muktzah or not. The reason Rabbi Yehuda said it has to be loose has nothing to do with the imum. No room to attack Rava. The imum is not the store, it's the shoe. You know what Rabbi Yehuda holds Mishum Rablezer? Mishum Rablezer who? Rabbi Yehuda is qualifying the opinion of Rabbi Lezer regarding the status of the shoe, if it's finished or not finished. And he says, here comes the punchline, which means, let me explain everything. The same Rabbi Lezer, which we said, believes that the min'al, as long as the min'al is on the imum, it's not a kli. It's still in the production line. It's the end of the production line, but not after the end. It's still not a kli. Not a kli yet. Says Rabbi Yehuda, I qualify his words because he told me, Rabbi Lezer, that if the shoe is loose on the imum, then it's already called a kli because it's not so tight. It's very approachable, very usable. I can take it off very easily. It's considered to be out of the machine, out of the factory, because it's loose, even though it's hanging on the imum, and that's why I required rafui. So it has nothing to do with the muktzah status of the imum, whether mekomo or not mekomo. Rava is absolutely fine with that. The reason Rabbi Yehuda said it has to be rafui is for the status of the shoe. To make the shoe non-muktzah, according to Rabbi Lezer, you have to say very nicely that it's rafui. Ya givaldig, Baruch Hashem. We finished that Perek Toilin, and Be'ez Hashem tomorrow we're going to start the new Perek. Be'ez Hashem should give us koyach. Noit alodam is bnoi. It's coming tomorrow. We finish Masechet Shabbos in soon. What will we do next? It's a good question. Stay with us and thank you everybody. Thank you everybody on Torah Anytime, for the wonderful people who run Torah Anytime, for everybody who views us on Torah Anytime. Atzlacha, bracha, and a good night.